Hello people of the world, and welcome to today's episode of Coffee Chats with Jax. Today I want to make a video about sexual violence and sexual assault and what actually is consent, because I have been thinking a lot about this lately. For the very first time earlier this month, I was asked by someone if they could kiss me. No one has ever asked that before. They just do it. And that's not to say that not asking is bad. I think it depends on the person, and it depends on if the person getting kissed wants to be kissed or not. But it made me start to think about past experiences, because if you are unaware of my story, I will let you know that when I was 17, I was raped by my best friend's boyfriend. After that, I kind of had a series of really terrible sexual experiences. In my head, I was thinking I must have been asking for this, like this must be something that I have done wrong. I didn't really start to actually process and look at what consent actually is until somewhat recently, because the conversation always scared me. I have had a habit of replaying images of my assault in my head over and over and over again, trying to prove to myself that it wasn't my fault, that I didn't make it up, that I'm not crazy, that I'm okay. Well, like one of the reasons it was so hard for me to come to terms with the fact that it was not my fault, that I did not ask for it, was because of some of the responses that I got after the fact. Basically, I told my sister what happened. Later on, she asked me if I wanted her to tell this other person that is supposed to be like there. And I said yes. And this person never talked to me about it and acted like everything was normal. And so that translated to me like, oh, this isn't that big of a deal. Like, I need to suck it up and get over this. And then another response I got was from my best friend who was dating my abuser. And I called her and told her what happened. And her response was, well, you must have been drinking too. Like, come on. We hang up the phone and never talk again. And then I tell a manager at work what happened, because I worked with this guy, and at first I was like, okay, I'm going to stop talking about it. I'm not going to make a big deal about it, because I just want to keep the peace. I want everything to be okay. I don't want to ruin his reputation, and I don't want to ruin his life and make him feel bad. Like, my whole mind was on him, when at the end of the day I was the victim. Like, point blank, this is something that I do get to be a victim in. I couldn't take it anymore working with him. He would pretend that like everything was normal. He pretended to not even remember. He pretended to black out. And so he would act as if all was normal. And I couldn't handle it, so I brought my manager outside, and this lady like was kind of like a work mom to me, and I told her what happened, and her response was, I'm sorry that you lost your best friend. Yeah, I did lose my best friend in it, but there was a lot more at play there. And so it made me feel like it didn't really matter. So the next thing I know, my manager comes out and tells me I need to go home from work. And later that night, I get a phone call from her, kind of sounding like a robot, saying, okay, you and your abuser are both going to not come into work for about a week, and then we're going to talk, figure out what to do, and let you know what happens next. So then about a week later, I get a phone call again from her telling me, okay, we've made up our mind, and you and your abuser can come back to work now. Never talked about again. So I continued there working with him, and nobody really cared. After that, years later, I started openly talking about it, and I got responses from people who really were supposed to be there for me, and I'm not going to call them out, but his response was, how do you expect me to just love you right now? Like, what do you want, a hug from me? Like, how much were you drinking? You're making yourself a two-time victim. You must be making this up. Like, stop victimizing yourself. Like, this can't be true. And I have not really been able to talk about this that publicly and openly, because I feel sometimes that I need to protect everybody else, that their reputation matters more than my healing, my safety. And I've had lots of amazing responses lately, and been opening up this conversation more in my friendships, and being met with really loving and empathetic responses. But I just want to make this video to say that there are reasons why it's scary for women to come forward. There are reasons why women think it's their fault. The responses that we get can be more traumatizing than the actual assault itself. Like, so much happens, and people asking you to relive your trauma, in a sense of like, they kind of just want all the details, less to help you and more so just to like get the gossip and get the story. Like I was asked that by a big brother figure. A few days after my rape happened, he called me and asked for detail, step by step, what happened, and then he asked me if I enjoyed it at all, if any little part of me thought it was cool. All that did was put me in this mindset that I can't talk about this. My way of coping was to go out and partying and drinking and numbing out and just pretending everything was fine, but then going home, crawling in my bed and just wanting to kill myself. Like that's when depression started for me, around 17, because that's when it like got put in my head the ways that I'm supposed to cope, the ways that I go into survival mode. And now when I'm actually learning what consent means and I'm actually learning about what sexual violence really does to people, really does to humanity, what the response of people telling girls to be careful what you wear, like even in church because you don't want to make a guy stumble, like you must have been asking for it because your shirt was too low or your pants were too tight or you shouldn't have been drinking that much. No way. I was listening to this podcast, The Liturgist. They were talking about sexual trauma, and this girl, Jamie Lee Finch, wrote this spoken word at the end, and something she said in there really stuck out to me. And I might misquote her, but it was something along the lines of, stop telling girls to be careful of what they wear. Start raising men to not rape people. Like, take the responsibility off of the victim and put it on the abuser. Sex is supposed to be this really beautiful, intimate, wonderful thing, but it's only that way if both people are fully there and fully want to be involved and are fully connected and okay. When someone asked me simply if it was okay to just kiss me, it really just threw me for a loop because I'm like, why did that feel so respectful? Why did that feel so shocking? And the person responded like, that's the norm. That's the norm. And there's been so many instances where I feel like stuck and I feel like I owe this person something, and there's a lot of triggers. And it makes me really mad. Sorry for the dog. I just want to open up this conversation about what consent means and to give you guys permission to know that your body is your body. And if you don't want someone to touch you, if you don't want someone to hug you, to kiss you, to do more than that, that is your choice. Your body is yours to take care of. And I'm really excited to start living a life that I am not afraid to do that. And I'm not afraid to say no. And I'm not afraid to talk about it and to make someone uncomfortable in order to protect myself. I'm done sacrificing my own mental health to make other people feel good. On the topic of sexuality and intimacy, that's a really, really sacred part of a human. It's a very special part, and that part belongs to you and you only. Oh my gosh, there's so much more I want to say, but I'm going to leave this right here for this conversation and continue maybe next week to talk more about things in this topic. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you would like to support me on Patreon for as little as $1 a month, that is why I'm able to do what I do every week and to have these conversations. That would be patreon.com/JackieGTV or links below. There's also a link to purchase my book, Be Free, down below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.